Shalom. Kalalal Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh. Hey, this is a clear example of Ezekiel chapter 38, specifically the 4th verse on down, man. And it says, the multipolar revolution you missed, the alliance everyone forgot is shaping Eurasia's future. At the CIS summit, Russia's regional alliance quietly evolved from post-Soviet bureaucracy into a functioning pillar of a multipolar world. You see that? Damn. All right, the CIS. Yeah, man, the CIS, baby. CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States. That's what it means. Okay, that's what it stands for. And that's a regular meeting of the leaders of the CIS member states. And its purpose is to pretty much serve and to, well, yeah, it's to serve the body of the CIS, of course, those nations. And they also address economic, political, and humanitarian issues relevant to the member nations, right? So they cover things amongst themselves, those issues. They also focus on things like economic cooperation, regional security, and expanding collaboration between member countries. And that's all to keep the West out and to make the East bigger and stronger, and so they can dominate the world. That's what it's about, So, what I get, man, like I said, this is Ezekiel 38, Eurasia's future. This all ties into that old USSR Soviet spirit. Even though the Soviet era is done, obviously, that influence is still there, and now it has turned into something else, and that's Eurasia's future, or the Eurasian era, right? So in order for you to get a better understanding of what I'm going to go into, you have to look up the word Eurasia or Eurasian era. You got to know the basic definition, and you also got to know the geopolitical definition as well, which simply put, man, the Eurasian era, the basic definition, it just refers to a historical or geopolitical period dominated by the countries of Eurasia. And that includes, the massive landmass. That includes Europe and Asia. Okay, so you have European countries and Asian countries. Okay, so that's Eurasia, and they're working together, right? So now, going into the geopolitical meaning, the Eurasian era, it just describes a shift in global power away from the West, right? Which the West is the United States of America and these different Western European nations, especially like Britain. And that global power is being taken away from the West and being shifted towards the East, which the East represents what? Eurasia, which is Russia, China, and the different allies and nations like India, Iran, and etc. Right? So after the Cold War, man, the U.S. led what was called the unipolar world, one dominant superpower, which we are no longer in that, and that's what this article is going into. It's not a unipolar world anymore. It's a multipolar world, meaning you have these different nations, the Eurasian nations, coming together, and they're running things. Okay. Now let me get a precept because it says multipolar world. At one point, America was dominating heavily. That's no longer the case anymore. America's still strong. Don't get me wrong. Okay, they are still the top nation on the earth, but nobody's really scared of them as how they used to be scared of them back in the day. And I got one precept to bring out. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 13. And he doeth great wonders. Okay, and this is talking about the beast. Okay, and who runs the beast? America, right? Okay, whose deadly wound was healed? Okay, it's going into Neo-Rome, especially Neo-Rome coming back into power, the Roman Empire. This is Rome 2.0. Anyway, so it says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And that actually happened during World War II, bro. With these, what they call it, the atom bomb, or what was it called? The atom bomb and the neutron bomb. Yeah, that actually took place. You had the bombings that took place on Japan, which was Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the other 7 bombings that took place, right? And hey, that had the whole world shook. And then after that, I believe the American dollar came in. Okay, or you had what's it called? No, no, yeah, it was through the military and also them controlling the world reserve currency. Okay, and they took over the world and they dominated the world by that. Everybody was afraid of America because they had the bomb, man, and they controlled the money. Right, so this is just a precept going into that, going into that. Verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. You see? All right. So that's a part of the miracles, okay? Miracles, great wonders, making fire come down from heaven, sky fire. The Heavenly Father did that, man. Only the Heavenly Father was able to do serious miracles like that. But now, the Heavenly Father, through the left-hand side, gave that power onto these devils to do that. Because remember, when you go into Genesis, the 19th chapter, I think it's the 19th chapter? Yeah, 19th chapter. Talks about Sodom and Gomorrah, man, being destroyed by fire. Fire rained from heaven and destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. That's some God shit, man. Only God can do some shit like that. Now these devils, they have the power to do that with their technology, dropping bombs from the sky. That's serious, right? So, this shows that it was a unipolar world back then, right? It was, but that's no longer the case because now you have these different nations working with each other, and now all these different nations, they have what you called nuclear capabilities, right? You can also read Isaiah the 14th chapter too, going into the king of Babylon and how these nations are looking down at America and saying, oh, have you become weak as we? Oh my gosh, right? So that's Isaiah the 14th chapter. Maybe I'll bring that out. But now you have these many experts, especially the experts on here on Russia Today, these journalists, and these different analysis, right? They're now saying that the era is done, the unipolar world era is done, and we're entering a multipolar world, or the world of Eurasia, which is Russia, China, and India, Iran, and these other countries, man. And they are major centers of influence. Okay, so Western dominance, especially American dominance, is declining, man. Eurasian countries are building alliances, and in these different alliances are, obviously the CIS. You have the BRICS, which that's a popular one. That's one alliance that we're very familiar with, the BRICS, right? That's an economic one. And also you have SCO, which is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And you have all these different various trade or energy networks that they have going on between each other. So when you see articles like this, the Russian officials are just simply saying the Eurasian era has begun, and the world is no longer led by the US and Europe only, which really means Western Europe, but by a coalition of Asian and Eurasian powers forming a new world order. And that's what they want. Psalms 49:11, their inward thoughts that their houses shall continue forever. They believe that they're going to continue to do things their way. They have their own plans and set in motion. But, the Lord has his own NWO. Because the Lord, he set this up. This all ties into Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. So, without further ado, let's get it. I did a lot of talking. Hopefully it was necessary. Hopefully you're still here watching. Now, this is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 1. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company, with bucklers and shields, all of them handling sword. Damn, that a lot was said there, right? So Gog in the Hebrew is Gawag, which just simply means mountain. You also have chief prince, which chief means Rayash in the Hebrew, and also Nayasha means prince, right? And he is the chief prince over there in that region of the world. You can't fuck with this guy, right? And when you read verse 4, it shows you that this guy has a lot of power and influence over there. He has a big military. You can't fuck with this guy. You can't just go up. He has special forces. He's into espionage, intelligence. He has something called the KGB. And even look at their president over there, Putin. He's ex-KGB, which, you never get out of espionage. You never get out of intelligence. A spy is always a spy. No, no matter what. You can never get out of that. So that shows that's a very serious country, a very powerful country on how they move. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. Yeah, so, Russia was known as the USSR before 1991. Simply put, right? So they pretty much used to be a communist empire. They're very powerful. You know what shows you that? After World War II, man, Russia was able to recover much more quickly than all these different European nations that were involved in World War II. And because of that, they are able to spread their communist influence to these other weaker European nations, especially Italy. And that's why you had these different operations that were created by the United States government, such as Operation Gladio, right? You should go look that up. I got to go back and reread it. I remember reading it. But I believe even the movie The Godfather 3 shows you Operation Gladio, right? Incognito, though. It doesn't come out and tell you that. But a part of that operation, it was the United States government working with the mafia and the Vatican government to launder money, and I believe that was to fuel the operation, right? So yeah, the mob even had their role in combating communism, because communism, if it were to take over America, it would be bad for business, for the mob, right? So that's why they got involved, because they want to do their wickedness and hustle and make money, right? So they struck a deal with the government. And so you're able to launder money through the Vatican because you can't track it, right? It's tax free and you can't track it. You're able to just put your money in there because nobody can go in and tell the Vatican what to do. Right? They're their own state. They're very powerful, right? But when you go into that operation, you had former Nazi soldiers become a part of the United States government. They became soldiers for the United States. So they were American citizens by day, and by night they were soldiers. And what they would do is they would go into these other nations and do something called state-sponsored terrorism. And they would destroy government buildings, and then they would frame the Russian government or Russian officials that were over there in countries like Italy, bringing forth communism, to make them look bad. So that would cause the people to not want to buy into communism. So it was pretty brilliant. But that just shows you how powerful Russia was when they were the Soviet Union, when they were the USSR, right? Shows you how powerful they were. And then they lost it. So yeah, the hooks in their jaw means they are going to come back in that old Soviet USSR spirit. All right. And that's what I see here. And it's going to be done through the multipolar world or multipolar alliances. Okay. So that Soviet spirit, it's still influencing Russia. It is, but it's just showing in a different way. Russia is still calling the shots. These other nations, they're still under Russia, whether you believe it or not. Even as powerful as China is, and it has its own sovereignty, right? It does its own thing, but they still work with Russia. Russia's technically still over them, But anyways, that's what I wanted to read here. So verse 5, Ezekiel 38 verse 5, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them as true. They help these nations, through these alliances, being the BRICS, being the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, all those other ones, these different alliances, the CIS, Russia, okay, Gog Magog, is helping them and building them up, giving them money, giving them loans to do certain things. You know, so he's a guard onto them. He protects them. He gives them weapons, and he comes to their aid if they were to be invaded. Things in that nature. You see that with Iran and things of that nature, and these different nations. They work with each other. All right, so that's what you see right here. That's what you see right here. Right. Now, what should you take away from this article? Pretty much, the article is just telling you that a new chapter is starting. Pretty much, not just the aftermath of the Soviet Union, but a more assertive Eurasian configuration. And it reflects Russia's strategic self-image. This is how they're showing themselves. Going back to the collapse of 1991, Soviet Union falling, to now building a different kind of order. This is an order that they're building. They're showing the world that we're powerful and we're going to take down the West. Right. So I don't know. How the former Soviet states navigate this so-called new era. Will pretty much shape regional politics, economics, and things to come in the future. So this is a force to be reckoned with, and we know what the Lord has planned. I just read it to you. Right? So that's what the article is going into. That's what you should take away from it. You can read it for yourself. Like I said, a link will be in the description. Now, just going into Russia's military and what they're going to do in the future. They're going to destroy America and they're going to destroy Israel. That's what they're set up to do. When you read Ezekiel 38 and also Ezekiel 39, maybe it's in Ezekiel 38 here. Let's see. Hold on. Is it? Hold on. I think it's 39 or... Yeah, okay. Yeah. Verse 8, after many days thou shalt be visited in the latter years. Thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste. But it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely all of them. That thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, and many people with thee. Thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Yeah, now you're going to be like, let me get some revenge. They destroyed the old USSR. They're always foiling with my plans and making us look bad, making us look like we're the villains, destroying our economy. Come on, man. Let's fuck these guys up now. Let's take over. Let's kill these guys. Because that's what evil is. Evil is bad times. They want to bring bad times. Verse 11, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls. Yeah, that includes America, the land of unwalled villages. Right. The open valley, which is America, right? But anyways, and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, and dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? Yeah. Verse 16, and thou shalt come, just for the sake of time, and thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land, and it shall in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, and that the heathen may know me when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. Yeah. And pretty much, man, the Lord is going to use Russia to destroy the United States and also Israel. And at the same time, different parts of Russia is going to be destroyed. Right? So this is Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 1. Therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, thus saith the Lord power. Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back, and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee up the mountains of Israel, and I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee. I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. Thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord power. Yeah, man, pretty much. When Russia gets involved in this World War III, they'll start to shoot off their missiles, man, on these other countries. But at the same time, like I said, different parts of Russia will be destroyed by the missiles. Israel, the physical land, will be destroyed. Where that's where the false Jews dwell today. They'll be destroyed and nuked by Russia. Fire is going to be that cleansing agent, man. But the sixth part of is pretty much going into their military. Now they have 6 parts of their military. 5 parts of the Russian military will be brought to the Valley of Decision, which is Yahweh Shappai, which just simply means Yahweh has judged, and that's where they're gonna go there, and they're gonna fight Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right, they're gonna go there and they're gonna fight, and they're gonna lose miserably. But then you're gonna have that one part of Russia's military. They'll stay back and protect the motherland. Right, because you can't just leave the motherland defenseless, so they're going to have one part over there to defend. But that just shows you how big their military is. Pursuant to Ezekiel 38:4, very strong, man. Very strong, man. You can go on Chat GPT, Google, YouTube, and just type in Russian military, Russian military equipment, and it will give you a number of how much nukes they have, tanks, submarines, and things of that nature. They're big, man. They have a strong army, right? They have special forces, right? Espionage, secret agents, and things like that. Very serious, right? So let me get this one. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? You see that? So this shows you that it's no longer about being a unipolar world. It's a multipolar world. Okay, because America is no longer at the top, and the experts are saying that American domination and influence is declining. Right, and now it's about multipolarism, and that's true, or multipolarization. Sorry, right, and it's true because the scriptures, it tells you that the hammer of the earth, which that's America, they are the judge of the whole earth. They have a lot of influence. They can judge nations. They can destroy nations. Now they're broken. And who's doing that? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. He sanctioned this. So America is going to go down, but it's not going to go the way they think it's going to go. Excuse me. Salakia. Yeah, so yeah, in a nutshell, the Lord is causing Babylon to fall, and they're going to become a desolation among these nations. Verse 24, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. The Lord hath opened his armory, and a part of the Lord's armory is what? The ICBMs, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation, for this is the work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, power of armies in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing be left of her. Slay all her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. Yeah, that's going to happen through thermonuclear destruction first and foremost, man. Alright, so that's how they're going to go down. They're going to go out with fire. Last one, this is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. And that's how they fought back in the ancient world, right? In the Middle Ages especially, that's how they fought. They went on the battlefield, and they had a great big battle. Men holding shield and buckler and sword in their hand, right? But that's no longer the case. This war is going to be fought by ICBMs, you pushing buttons and turning keys, man. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. True. Okay, and that's how the ICBMs are propelled in the air. Okay, fuel of fire, So that's how it's going to be, burning and fuel of fire. Yeah. Thermonuclear destruction. And that's going into that third woe, World War III. America, Russia, and these different powers in the world, they're all going to be caught up into that. Okay. So anyways, man, I hope this was edifying. Till next time, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of GMS. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom unto the hopeful elect. Kwame Asha Allah in the Bible Ball. Shalom.